Welcome to another episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. On today's episode, I sit down with Zach Latos. He is the founder of FlyMeOut, which is an exclusive members-only travel business that he started after he quit his high-profile, high-paying job as an attorney. Crazy story on how he had security, financial stability, and threw it all away to pursue his dream of starting this business. We're gonna dissect what's going on in this travel app world, the success he's seeing globally, and just the idea, dissecting the business side of it, and really get a better understanding of this incredible company that he's launched. So get ready for this episode starting now. My name is George Stroumboulis, and I'm extremely passionate about traveling the world, meeting new people, and learning about new businesses. Join me as I sit down with other entrepreneurs to learn about their journeys. This episode of Invigorate Your Business starts now. So we're going to jump into this. I have Zach Latos sitting with me today here in Newport Beach. I drove like 14 hours from Los Angeles to be here today. But very excited to have you here. You're doing some kind of game-changing stuff in the travel app space, right? Revolutionizing it. And not just doing that, you came from being an attorney, right, at prestigious firms on the East Coast to saying, hey, my late 20s, I'm done. I'm going to start something new. I believe in something new, walking away from a very good salary, great compensation, a legacy of family being attorneys, right? In New York, immigrant family, and saying, I'm going to put it all out there. I'm going to start a travel company, but not just a travel company. We're going to revolutionize how people travel, how they experience experiences. So we're going to unpack all that today and just get into it. So thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So talk to me, man. How do you describe your company, FlyMeOut? We're going to jump into that first.
I think FlyMeOut is the coolest platform on the internet, hands down. What it is an invite-only group travel platform. Members go through an interview process. During that process, they're asked questions about their travel experiences. Where have you gone? What did you do when you traveled? Who'd you go with? Do you have references? Once they're approved, they can upload their trip itineraries and their travel plans, invite their friends to join the platform as well, showcase that their friends are joining them on this trip, and then open that trip up to other members within the community to apply to join their trips. So our platform is pretty unique where we have, founders, CEOs, content creators, models, influencers, professional athletes. So it's a really unique member base with really unique members hosting trips, and it's incredible.
Absolutely. It's exclusive, right? So anyone listening today, just kind of going back to some facts. Last year I read somewhere that there were over 500 million, half a billion downloads of travel apps globally, right? And the majority is like an Expedia, an Airbnb, apps like that. So people are obviously in real time, want to experience things, want to, even if they're not going on trips all the time, people are always flirting with the idea, where's this, where's that? Just talk to me, the actual idea for FlyMeOut. Where did that even start?
The idea is, so that started, I was a corporate attorney in a previous life. And as a lawyer, you work all day and you take one big vacation a year. My best friends were all in finance in New York and similar lifestyle, work, take one big vacation a year. So we were all planning on going on a trip to Greece, specifically Mykonos, and being the guys we were, we kind of booked last minute and we decided, all right, well, let's go to Mykonos in about a month and let's get a villa. So the only villa available was one that slept 15 people. There were 6 of us. So we had 4 extra bedrooms available. And I said, hey, it'd be cool if we could bring another friend group of girls because you don't want to be 6 guys on a boat. That's the most embarrassing and boring thing in the world. No offense, guys. I love you, but let's see if we could bring a friend group of girls. So I went on Hinge, put a picture of me and my 5 friends, said, hey, we're all going to Mykonos August 1st to the 5th. We got a giant villa, 4 rooms. We're looking for another friend group of girls to join us. Hit me up if you want to come. I had about 400 friend requests on Instagram.
Jeez.
And it was insane. The girls were sending me roses to get to the top of my Hinge profile. I ended up interviewing about 40 girls, different friend groups. We all got on group FaceTimes together. And, we ended up selecting 6 girls, 3 and 3, 2 different friend groups, put this group chat together. The group chat was electric.
Jeez.
All the girls were from London. We were all from New York. The banter back and forth was great. ended up going on this trip, and the trip was amazing. Like by the end of it, we all felt like a little family. Like you party with people 5 days straight. You get to know each other.
Absolutely.
And like no one wanted to leave each other by the end of it. And we stayed in touch, and we're still in touch to this day. And I turned to my co-founder at the time and told him, hey man, I think I found something here. Like the traction was uncanny. I've been building companies for a while, and the traction that I saw using a platform like Hinge.
Describe Hinge. I'm not familiar.
Hinge is a dating app.
Okay.
A regular dating app. But I thought, hey, this is a really good place to go find girls to come on this trip, and specifically friend groups. And there was nothing in the market that existed to scratch this itch.
Right.
So I had to improvise. So I went on Hinge, and it worked. It was serviceable, but there was a lot of things missing, right? There was the friend groups. I didn't know whose friends they were friends with. The communication wasn't there. The itinerary for our trip wasn't there. Pictures of our villa wasn't there. My friends weren't on there. So like there was a lot missing. So ultimately I used Hinge, and I feel like we struck gold. So I turned to my co-founder. I told him, hey man, I think we got something great here.
Sure.
Let's build it. And we kind of launched this makeshift website in 30 minutes.
Immediately after your trip?
No, 8 months after.
Okay.
So we were working on another project. That project failed. And in the startup world, you pivot.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we did. So we pivoted. We built a website May 27th of 2023. And the website was built in about 30 minutes. It said, find your tribe, see the globe, apply for an invite, fly me out. Had an influencer posted on her story. She posted it on her story. It got 111 applications in 24 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, so like in my previous experiences, like you got to sell first and build later.
Yep.
That's a common mistake founders make, is like they're always looking to build extra features, and they think the logo is what people care about. Right. What's the name? What does it look like? Who cares about all that stuff? Is someone willing to buy your product? That's all that matters.
Absolutely.
Dollars and cents here. So we sold the idea first, and we got 111 applications on that Fly Me Out makeshift website.
It's crazy.
It was
from around the world? Like where were these applications coming from?
All over the planet.
Really?
The first application we got was some girl from Australia with 50,000 followers. I remember it like it was yesterday. I saw it and I lost my mind. I was like, Australia, 50,000 followers? You're kidding me. And then I was refreshing, and another one and another one. And then I let it be. The next morning I woke up, 111 applications.
Jeez.
All over the planet, all different type of people, super diverse, but really like our ideal users, lawyers, real estate developers, content creators, check. And I turned to my co-founder and I said, given my experience during my trip and using Hinge, given my experience here building this MVP that really is functionless, and people are applying to get in, now it's time for us to build a real MVP of product, which is exactly what we did. We built the app in about 2 weeks using no code. It was absolute dog shit. It was terrible.
Right.
Super clunky, but we hacked it together.
Proof of concept, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's all it is proof of concept. And once again, I learned from my previous mistakes that like don't overbuild anything. Build your core functionality, your core features, and as fast as possible.
Yes.
If you're waiting till it's perfect, it's too late.
Yeah. Which by the way, I live my life, get it to that 80 to 90%. Because that last 10% to make anything perfect can take forever. Yeah. You're just going to get lost in the minutia. But really quick, before we dive into the actual app, go back to, okay, you're single and you're going on this trip to Mykonos, right?
Yep.
So what was your actual intent? You're going to a buffet and you wanted to bring a sandwich, right? Essentially. So when you were going there, was it just to have like banter? Obviously there's hookups going on. Yeah. Like what was the original?
So going on a party trip is unique, right? If that's like saying, you're going out to the club. If you're going out to the club, why are you going out to the club? You're going to meet people.
Sure.
Right? So the foundation of this entire experience was like, let's just go meet people. That's why we didn't bring friends from back home in New York, invite a friend group of girls we knew. It's like, no, we wanted a new experience. We wanted to go meet new people. So I said, let's go set the location to London on Hinge, because logistically that's the cheapest like flight and the easiest thing. You don't lose anything in translation there. And let's go meet new people. And that's exactly what we did. And the experience was incredible. And yeah, we met even more people when we were in Mykonos, because you're not 6 guys at the table beating your chest trying to bring girls over and hang out.
Sausage party doesn't work too well.
And it just creates so many headaches, and it's so difficult. And like if you rent a boat in advance, which is what we did, and the boat was an expensive boat. It was beautiful. It was 55-footer, really nice. Once again, you don't want to be just 6 guys on that boat. And the night before, when you get to Mykonos, like in my experience, this has happened before, where you got the boat the 3rd day of your trip.
Yep.
But guess what? Now the first and second day, you got to work to go meet people, to invite them onto your boat for the third day. And if you fail, you just spent 10 grand.
And the boat ride sucks after that.
Yeah, it sucks because you're looking at all your friends in a circle and like, it's terrible. It's not
absolutely
fun. So it takes all the work out of it. And we'll get into the platform in a bit.
And we'll get into it. So even, again, single days going on trips, obviously we know intentions and everything, but like when you're going there with, right, to book it, do they, like when they're messaging you, is it, hey, you have to pay for the villa and the boat, or is just like, just come on, party, no expectations? Like, was that the premise of that?
That's sort of how the platform works. And you customize your itinerary and your trip. Like if you want to upload a trip where everyone has to cost share, sure, it'll say cost sharing trip.
Yes.
If you want to upload a trip similar to ours where the villa's there, we already got the villa, it's huge. We need people to fill it. And you want to host people there, by all means, say villa's included, pay for your own flight. If you're super loaded, you don't care, you want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to come and you want to pay for flights, pay for the villa, fine too. And there's a group chat involved, there's a chat involved, so you have to have those conversations on the platform. There's your Instagram linked to your trip. There's your friend's Instagram linked to the trip if they're co-hosts.
Due diligence, right? Just everyone's
due diligence. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like it's our job to vet the members in the community, but it's also your job to kind of ask those questions too and make sure everyone has the same expectations. The vibe of this trip matches your vibe as an individual. And we have vibes on the trip where like, this is a party trip. This is a yoga retreat. This is a wellness thing. This is just luxury and like sightseeing. And you could see that based on the trip itinerary.
Is there smashing vibes? Like, are they, we'll get into it, but so from a trip standpoint, can it be one-on-one? Like, hey, I'm going to the Bahamas. No, never one-on-one. So it's always a group aspect. Very cool.
Safety comes first for us, and it just feels a lot more genuine when it's a group. The whole point is to connect people. Like a tribe, there's multiple people in your tribe, and that's our tagline. Find your tribe, see the globe. So we want you to connect with other people. We want you to bring your group of friends or meet another group of friends and bring both groups together, which is the applicants and the hosts. So there has to be at least 2 hosts and at least 2 trip mates before a trip can even be uploaded. So really the hosts will show like, hey, it's us, me, and like my 2 friends, and you'll see them. And then all the applicants know, okay, there's 3 people going on this trip and they're looking to bring another 3 people. So I'm not going to be alone.
Right.
Super cool.
So let me ask you, what's the percentage of successful trips that are matched? Like, is there a percentage where, this one didn't get matched?
So the matching aspect isn't something that we necessarily do. It's not AI yet. We're getting there and we're working on that right now. But I'd say it's a high percentage of our trips where the host hosts the trip and members apply and they actually go on this trip.
Amazing.
I think I'm building the coolest thing on the internet.
It is the coolest thing. And the little I've seen, obviously I'm not on there, I'm not a member. I would like to think like if I applied, maybe I'd be accepted. I don't know. Maybe I'll go under another name, but it looks like a luxurious experience, right? Like a professional experience. It doesn't have that cheesy, like, hey, we're just trying to hook up type aspect, right? Which some people think that it's been pegged like a dating app. Right. So no, Barstool Sports, like you guys have gotten some crazy press about this, right? Positive, right? If they're talking about it, it's millions of views. What was the Barstool one that went viral?
So I'd like to lead this by saying the worst thing anyone can say about your business is nothing.
Exactly.
I've been on the other side of that where no one cares, and I'm on this side where everyone seems to have an opinion and everyone cares, and I love being on this side over that side. Barstool, Dave Portnoy, got a hold of the app and said, new app went viral called FlyMeOut, where guys can upload their trips and invite girls to join their trips. And then he looked at the camera and said, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And Portnoy is an idol of mine. Love the man. I think everything he's built is incredible. I think the tenacity and the way he built his company is amazing. So like for him to say that to me, dude, I was through the roof. When I saw that, I was waiting outside in the driveway and my girlfriend pulled up because she was coming home in like a minute, and I was like, the smile on my face was insane. So compliments like that from your idols really like is what keeps you going. But then there's the other side of it where a lot of people are going to say bad things. They're going to say new human trafficking platform just dropped, new escort service just dropped, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, we know what we're building. I know what my sensibilities are. I know what I want to build. I know the experience I had. I know what I'm trying to replicate here. And it's kind of up to me to make sure that we're kind of setting the agenda, and it starts with the top.
Absolutely. So. Really quick, Dave Portnoy, out of all the stuff he's done, like I'm a huge fan of him too. I love the no filter, just says it how it is. Like what's one of the things that you respect about him?
The way he responds to criticism.
Yeah.
We spoke earlier off camera about like just keeping a mental catalog of all the people that have wronged you, all the people who never supported you, who say bad things about your business, say bad things about you, question your judgment, whatever the case may be. And the way he responds to criticism and uses that as like his...
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's...
Is he an attorney by trade? I feel like he would have been a lawyer. Like this guy's...
Yeah, he would have made a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also love, dude, what he did during, it's not a Dave Portnoy clip, but what he did for the restaurants during COVID.
Yeah.
Like just unbelievable, right? The government's sitting there fumbling it and this guy's going out raising money, giving them, keeping these places open.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough credit for that. Raised tens of millions of dollars for these restaurants.
Yep.
They're just cool stuff.
Yeah, he's a maverick.
He's a maverick. Go back to like the legal side of it, right? You're an attorney. We'll talk about that as well. But when someone applies to become a member on FlyMeOut, what does that process look like? Because you're almost taking a responsibility as well of saying, okay, they've been vetted.
Yep.
You have the front side profile that, you know, this person is succeeding at what they're doing professionally, right? I'm sure there's an aspect of that. But you're also legally saying, yep, this person is normal from what we see and they're approved into the community.
Yeah.
So what's the process of actually someone being accepted?
Yeah, so legally, we're no different than any other platform out there that connects people digitally and brings them together in the real world. So you have bad examples because they're dating apps, but it's very comparable where you're connecting two strangers is like Hinge, Bumble, Match.com, Raya, where you have to apply to get into Raya as like an exclusive dating app.
Okay.
Or once was. And you have to apply to get in and you have to be approved. So our process is pretty similar. What we look for is travel acumen. How often do you travel? What does it look like when you travel? What position do you have in the world? Are you a corporate professional? Are you respectful when we have a conversation? Do you understand that this isn't a dating app? Because we asked you those questions during the interview.
You do, okay.
Yeah. Do you have travel references, things like that? And then, of course, we have our own network of people that kind of do some digging. But we don't review for safety. Like that's something no platform really does because it opens up Pandora's box for liability. Like where do you draw the line? If you got a parking ticket or if you got a misdemeanor or whatever the case may be, we don't look into that.
Yep.
All we care about is, are you who you say you are? Name, location, address. Do you live where you say you live on your driver's license when you submit that? Do you travel often? Do you have pictures of you traveling? Do you have references? Whatever the case may be. And that's it. If we vibe.
Yep.
Then you're approved on the platform. And then we put it onto the members to kind of vet each other, ask questions, hop on a FaceTime, meet each other in public if you want.
Yep.
Go, if you're both in LA, like meet up in LA. Like it's not up to us to make sure you're asking the right questions. And all members know that. And we tell all members, like, it's up to you to ask the right questions. Like at the end of the day, we're not there holding your hand when you're on a trip with someone. Like it is a group experience. So there's safety in numbers.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. Like ask the questions you want answers to.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And is it mostly male versus female? Like what's a breakdown of people going on here?
It's really 50-50 at this point, which was amazing. In the beginning, we had way too many females.
Females?
Way too many.
Well, let's break that down a bit. So why more female? I thought it would be more dudes like on there trying to match, but is it the girls that are just looking for experiences?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
no way.
I think the name lends itself to like what the platform is or what they want it to be.
Sure.
And in the beginning, we had way too many females, not enough trips. And that was a really big issue for us because we got to make sure we're having trips on the platform for everyone to apply to. So that got us thinking about brand experiences. So we started partnering with brands who then satisfy the model, influencer, content creator demographic on the platform through brand experiences, which has been amazing.
Amazing.
And then as we started to gain popularity and traction and word of mouth, we spent no money in marketing the first year. The male demographic started to catch on. You know, one person hosts a trip, they're blown away. They get 200 applications. He tells his friend, who then tells his friend, who then tells his friend. So really the network effects have been incredible. And now we still have like too many females and not enough males.
Did you hear that, gentlemen?
And that's something we're really trying to solve for is like, how do we get more males to be comfortable with hosting their trip on this platform? And that's a problem and something I think we're doing a good job of solving. It's done by user feedback, communications, really figuring out what do you want out of this platform and how do we build it for you. And I think we've done a great job there. So it's starting to even out, but you can never have too many of either or.
Are you kidding me? And you launched this officially in
June 14th, 2023.
Okay. And we're basically a year later and you've already had this tremendous success.
Yeah.
Already eyeballs, people registering, all this stuff. That's huge. Is it on schedule with what you projected? Is it ahead schedule? Like, where are your expectations?
Ahead of schedule.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah. When looking at the roadmap, when I quit my job on June 27th, 2023, I did not have this success in mind. I thought we would be probably half of where we are. Yeah. And granted, shoot for the moon. And you'll if you fall, we'll shoot for the stars, and if you fall, you'll land on the moon. And that's kind of what happened here, where like we're in a really great place, but I'm not comfortable. I'm not getting complacent, and I'm always pedal to the metal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're barely 30 years old, right? You just turned 30.
Yeah.
Okay, so rewind. You had a very stable career, great profession as an attorney.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, from New York down to North Carolina, right? Working for various firms. Just talk to me, like, how do you do that? Start getting a good reputation, top of your class, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Walk me through just that, because it runs in your family. And then saying one day, like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to risk it all and step into this world, high-tech world. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it all started my second year of law school. I had an idea for a wearable device that connected people close vicinity at like networking events. So I was going to law firms, meeting other lawyers, and I didn't meet everyone in the room, and I wanted to meet them, and I was pissed. And I would say, well, I wish I could connect with them on LinkedIn, but I didn't know his name, whatever the case was.
Right.
So I had this idea and I wanted to build it. So I started interviewing designers to build mock-ups and build a logo immediately. Mistake most founders make, but that's the direction I went. And the guy I met was, my eventual co-founder, and him and I clicked immediately. And I fell in love with the process of just ideating, building. We started doing logos for other companies because we couldn't afford to build our startup idea.
Yep.
Started doing logos for friends and family, website designs. Website designs then turned into web development, which then turned into app development and turned into iOS consulting. So we scaled those operations. And mind you, I was in law school at the time still. So I was moonlighting, kind of juggling two things at once. But I was in love with the creative process of like building a company. Yeah. And it was kind of at that moment where I realized, all right, well, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. How am I going to be the best chief executive officer I could possibly be? And I decided, well, I have to go the corporate law route. And that's what I did. I was on the trial team for my school. I loved litigation. I took a restructuring course, bankruptcy course, and I fell in love with the diverse aspect. And I always believe like the best executives know a lot about like a lot of things. And they're well versed in diversity. And restructuring and the practice of bankruptcy is an aspect where you kind of do a little bit of everything. You do IP law, you do real property law, you do contracts, you do litigation, whatever the case was. And I said, this is what's going to make me the best and most well-rounded CEO. And that's what I did. I double majored. I got my JD and LLM. So I hyper-focused in restructuring. That got me a clerkship with a federal bankruptcy judge, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah, what is that like?
It's a process. So I actually accepted my clerkship in February because I got that LLM. I passed the bar exam 2019. I came back to finish out that semester to get my LLM.
In New York State?
In New York.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
St. John's Law, the best JDLM program in the country. Shout out. And I got my clerkship off season. So it was February when I moved down to North Carolina. And I had a conversation with the judge when I interviewed, and he goes, son, you know, there's about 200 miles of flyover in each direction. Like, do you know where you are? And I go, of course. But he was a super well-respected judge. Really good Chapter 11 cases, which are big business cases. And I could learn from him. So I picked up and moved. And in the back of my mind, I always knew I'm not practicing law forever. So how am I going to stockpile and save as much money as possible and be able to take that leap of faith one day? And that's what I did, right? Like I saved so much money moving down to Greenville, North Carolina. It was off season for a clerkship. So wherever I was getting a clerkship, I was going. Even if it was Alaska, I was going to go because they don't pop up often. And moved down to Greenville. A month later, the pandemic hits.
Jeez.
Now I'm in a city of about 60,000 people when school is in session. There was no school in session because of the pandemic. So there was maybe 15,000 people in the entire city. And I'm coming from Queens, New York, like my cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
And,
ghost town.
Yeah. So I really relished in that opportunity, and I was going 100 miles an hour with, learning how to be the best lawyer. And also I had the studio. So I was reading every single day. I would be done 4:30, 5 o'clock with the judge, go up on my balcony, just read, going through books, all pandemic, and like waking up really early, calling India, building that relationship with my team, growing my team. And that was like when I really decided, all right, I'm in, 100% I'm in. But before I could quit my day job, I have to save a lot of money.
You had your target, like where you wanted to be. Yep.
Had my number in mind. And once I got promoted to senior law clerk for the judge, and once that clerkship was over, I got an offer from a big firm down in Charlotte, picked my life up, moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina, moved on over to Charlotte, North Carolina, and worked at a big firm over there, an amazing restructuring team. Worked beside some of the most brilliant attorneys like you can imagine, and I really learned a lot from them.
Just picking brains every day.
They see through walls. Like these guys are just brilliant attorneys, and the work ethic was incredible. That you have to have a high motor to be a corporate attorney, especially corporate restructuring. It's a melting ice cube. Like the company is a melting ice cube, and we represented lenders. So our lenders lent 700 million, 500 million to these companies, which are failing. And you have to come in and stop the bleeding. So some of these companies would trip up financial covenants in their credit agreement, which then would require restructuring of the contract. You restructure that contract once. You restructure it twice. You restructure it 3 times. The lender's getting impatient. They don't trust the judgment of the company anymore.
Right.
So what do? Well, you need to file for bankruptcy. Essentially lenders will walk the debtor into the bankruptcy court with a gun to their head and say, you're going to file right now because we need, the automatic stay to be in place because you have other creditors that are coming for all your assets. So you got to put a stay to all that. And it's super high paced. So you have mergers, you have acquisitions, you have restructurings. They need money tomorrow.
Right.
And those documents need to be drafted. Everything needs to be reviewed. There needs to be diligence. So it's an incredible practice, and it requires a lot of focus, and it requires a high motor. So that's the cloth that I'm cut from.
Yeah. So really quick, even that, so when you see Toys R Us, for example, files Chapter 11, in a lot of those cases, and not speaking specifically for them, it's a gun to their head that, hey, no, we don't need to file right now, but everyone's basically calling in their debt. Right? And they're basically forced? Is that?
Yeah. Usually it's the senior secured lender that's giving them no choice.
Okay.
Like, you got to file.
And you're doing this representing the federal government?
No, we represent the lender.
The lender. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
We represent the lender, and then there's debtors counsel, and there's a lot of parties involved here. Yep. Sometimes there's 10 lenders on a deal, and that's called a syndicate group, where there's the main lender, and then there's all the other syndicates that if there's a $100 million loan, some party made 10 million, the other party made 30 million, whatever the case is.
Sounds like a mafia cartel, the syndicate, right?
Really, they own everything. Usually they're super secured. They own all your assets, and there's a priority here, and it's a carcass, really, and all the vultures are coming in to get their pound of flesh, but there's a priority to that. And the bankruptcy court brings order to that process, allows you to litigate in one forum. So this isn't a legal class, but that's what I was attracted to, because I knew one day I will be the owner of a company on the other side, and I want to make sure I'm not making all the decisions that these bankrupt debtors are making.
So smart. Let me ask you said you're learning from these guys that could see through people, right? Do they learn that as they go? Or is there a psychology aspect to this that you need to have to be able to do that?
I think a part of it is innate. You're just you're genuinely a whiz. You understand. I always considered myself a blue collar worker. It didn't come to me immediately. I wasn't book smart where I could read something once and I got it. I had to read. If you spent an hour in the library, I had to spend 3. Just to really understand the material. And I think corporate law is made up of a lot of those whizzes that just are computers. They could process information, synthesize it. And then obviously repetition over the years. You're doing this 24/7, 20 hours a day.
Right.
Over the course of a 30-year career, you've seen everything. And they have the ability to kind of advise their clients and see things that other attorneys don't see. So that's the innate part. And then it's learned. That said, that skill set is something like everyone has their A talent, right? Some people could process better. Other people are more creative. Other people are marketing minded. Other people could write. And I always felt like I was pulled in two different directions where like, if you want to make a difference in the world, do what you do the best. And do that 20 hours a day, 7 days a week around the clock. I always felt like, I was a good attorney. I wasn't them. And working with them, like I could see they thought differently. They thought the legal mind is a different mind.
Yep.
And I was good. I wasn't great. I do believe that I'm a great founder.
See, that's incredible. And you're still rolling with the top in the country.
Yeah.
Powerful country.
Yeah.
Learning, but you said something, you knew going into this to do this was just a launching pad. You already knew. So it wasn't one day you woke up and said, hey, I'm going to go start an app company. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you make the decision, you hit your financial target, you have the idea, right? Like that trip to Mykonos was like happened as well. And you said, hey, this is where I'm going to dedicate my time.
Yeah.
So day one, you quit your job. Where do you even start?
So let me rewind a little bit because I would consider, so mind you, I had the studio at the time. I had another startup project I was working on, which was flailing and really difficult to get off the ground. And I was waking up 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, calling India, building the team, building those relationships, leaving for the office at 7 o'clock, 8 a.m., coming back home at like 6, 7, doing whatever legal work I had to do, and then hopping on board for another 2 hours to make sure any startup work was done with. So I always felt like I had this mistress on the side, and my company was always my mistress, and then my wife was my 9 to 5. So it was really difficult to balance the two, and I was just drowning. I was dying to like tell the partners at my firm, guys, like I'm doing this.
Yes.
Like if you think my work product's good, I just wish you guys also knew what else I was doing. But no one cares.
Nope.
And they would have gotten pissed because you're not doing my work. You're doing someone else's work. You're doing your own. And the golden handcuffs is real in corporate law. They want you to buy that house. They want you to have kids. They want those kids to go to private school.
100%.
And that was expressed to me like, oh yeah, get that house. Yeah, get married. Send those kids to school. And that's real. And they want to keep you on that machine, and they want to keep you billing 24/7. And that's not a life I wanted to live. It's lucrative. If you love it, it's an incredible life, but it's not something I wanted to do. I wanted more for myself. I just wanted freedom.
Were you single at this point?
I was single.
Yeah, which is a big factor.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Big factor. I moved to North Carolina for a reason, because if you were to practice big law in New York and you want to live below your means, you have to live in Queens.
Yep.
So you've got to commute an hour and a half to the office, an hour and a half back from the office.
Oh, yeah.
That's 3 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Miserable life.
15 hours a week that you could then put into something else. Go to the gym, play basketball,
Absolutely.
whatever. So I wanted to move to Charlotte. So I walked to work every day. It was a 9-minute walk. Really close, amazing, saved a ton of time there, put that into my business. And it was a matter of when, not if. And whatever caught traction was going to catch traction. And FlyMeOut caught steam. And, I've seen enough in my short entrepreneurial career to know like that traction is uncanny.
Yeah.
You don't get that engagement that quickly from that quality of member, right? Who can afford to buy your product. You don't get it that easily. And the fact that we got it, I'm not going to pass up on this opportunity.
No.
I have a legal degree. Worst comes to worst, I could always go back to the practice of law. But I'm not going to pass up on this opportunity. I'm going to go for it. So I sat down with the partner who hired me. Amazing guy. Love him. And I had a conversation with him, and I told him. And he knew.
He knew.
He had a feeling.
That you were preoccupied like mentally, or?
Yeah. Towards the last 6 months.
Yep.
He just had a feeling, because you get restless, man.
Of course.
It's not, you want more for yourself. You're like, I don't want to do this credit agreement. I don't want to review it. I don't want to do the checklist. I don't want to do signature pages. Whatever the case may be, I want to build my vision. I want to build my company. And that restlessness people see on you, especially if you're someone like me.
Yeah.
Like I wear it on the outside, and they saw it, and I told them, and A, he was impressed. B, they were upset. Not in a bad way, but they were like, we're going to miss you. You were amazing. And I can't believe you did the quality of work you did while doing all these other things. Like, how did you sleep? When did you sleep? And the answer was never.
Never, yeah.
But I made that decision, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's incredible. And you build this, and I guess in this space, you find out quickly, if it's worth pursuing or not. You said before you started a company, 8 months in, you're like, hey, this isn't working.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you're able to sit there and say, hey, let's jump ship. Because a lot of people think pride of authorship, ownership, I started it, it's going to work. Let's get more money. Let's ask family and friends. And by the end of it, you're just bringing more people down with you versus let's just cut it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're in a position now just a year later. Can you talk numbers of the site? Is there any public information on like how many people in a year have actually registered to be on the platform? I'm sure millions of views. Like, can you give us, because it's a short period of time, this thing's taken off, right?
Millions of views, 60,000 applications.
Jeez.
Yeah.
60,000.
60,000 applications.
From endless countries?
All over the planet.
Really?
Any country you can imagine, we have a member there, most likely.
Yep.
And we have applications in the dozens from the most remote countries you can imagine, all over. It's incredible.
So is there a rate of like, for every 10 applications, one's typically accepted?
It varies. Some months it's higher, some months it's lower, because you can't really, if you get 1,000 applications that you're reviewing this month, right? Like those 1,000 could all get approved theoretically, or none of them could get approved. But usually it's between like the 10 to 25% range.
Amazing.
That are getting approved. Yeah.
So you see a lot of different trips, right? So you see in your platform, this trip. I follow on social media now. So I'll see like this new one in Indonesia and just really cool stuff. Are there 3 common destinations that you always see? Like, is it Ibiza, Mykonos? Is it those?
So we haven't been around long enough to really collect this data, so it's not set in stone. But in my experience, the summer was exactly what I expected it to be. It was like 7 trips to Ibiza, 7 trips to Mykonos, Italy, Croatia. Like it was very like, they call it the circuit, where all the rich people go through the circuit, and it's the Mykonos, Ibiza, Saint-Tropez.
Yep.
And we got a lot of those. And now in the winter, we're starting to get the Miamis. We're getting like the St. Barts, the Aspens.
Okay.
So it is the Tulums. It's exactly where you would expect the hot spots to be. My favorite trips are the unique ones, right? Where they're going to like a small village in Italy. And they're bouncing around villages, like not the mainstream stuff.
Yep.
Like really, let's go out there and see the world. And that's something I'm trying to unlock. Like, how do we plan those trips for some people?
Right. So that's what I wanted to ask you. If you're not a member, can you go on there and search trips, or is it locked out?
Locked.
Okay. So locked. So give the listeners, because at least 75% of the listeners will not be approved to become members, right? Based on. So when you go there, can you set everything up and say, can you actually search for villas? Like, is there an Airbnb integration, or is that in the future? Like, I can actually find a villa in Mykonos on the FlyMeOut app and do all the booking through there?
So the villas aren't yet integrated, but we will help you book those villas. So we have villa partners. We get you discounts on villas. We get you discounts on yachts, private jets, whatever the case may be. And there's certain memberships, right? So we have our premium membership, which allows you to host unlimited trips, and you get certain perks and benefits and discounts. So you'll get a discount on a yacht. And then we have our diamond membership, where we will be your concierge one-stop shop. We'll plan this entire trip for you. We'll get the villa for you. We'll book the yachts, the whole 9. And we get pretty sweet discounts for our members as well. So the villa integrations are coming. It's something I'm really excited about. The yacht integrations are coming sooner, which is great. And all of that, I envision this being a one-stop shop on the platform, where you come, your entire trip is done. The last mile of getting people to join you on the trip is done. And that's going to be a big part of what we do in the future.
That would be so helpful. Even I pay 20 grand. I got the car, I got I got the yacht. People are in there, and then you would be managing that as a merchant. So from a revenue standpoint, does the company make its money off memberships, percentage of, it's off membership platform. So you have access to this elite.
So there's three real streams of revenue right now. It's memberships, where you're paying a basic membership, a premium membership, a diamond membership, and that's recurring revenue. It's predictable. You love to see that curve, and you could really build a business around that.
Totally.
And then we have our brand partners, who brands started integrating brand experiences, where they purchase and select to sponsor influencers on our platform. So we're going to announce a few big brand trips for the new year. And we have some undisclosed partners that have basically purchased the right to promote through these influencers on this trip. So we got 4 girls, 1 million followers apiece going on this trip. We take that information, go to a few brand partners and say, hey, who wants to be the name sponsor for this trip? And they'll send them goodie bags, packages. The girls will wear the apparel or promote the product, whatever it is, on this trip. And there's media deliverables. So you got to tag the brand 2 times a day. You got to post a reel. You got to do a TikTok.
Come on.
Yeah.
So let me ask you on that. Like, that's for a company, just use mine, for example. Lighting, we sell around the world. If there's a new hotel that's opening up that we did the lighting and we want to get promotion, can I, as a business, I'm sure it's separate from an individual, create a platform and say, hey, we just did Hotel X. We would love 3 social media people that have at least 100,000 followers to go there. I would pay for 3 nights, flights or whatever. And they would go there and then there would be deliverables.
Exactly.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole other, because we go through it all the time on, all right, we can send a photographer, we got to get approval, and they go and we have the photos and we post it to ours and there's 0 engagement, little engagement versus someone who's in that space. And I could say, is there someone in the architecture space that has a following? And then your team would go through and seek that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
Tell us who you want, but you want someone in the architectural space, you want real estate, whatever the case may be. And we could either source that influencer for you from the platform network, or you could be the one who's hosting the trip. You're going to get 200-300 applications on this trip, and you could go through them and select, have conversations. The brand's marketing team will really be the one interacting. And that's what takes us from being a $15 million company to a $100 million company.
Yeah, that's huge. Like those experiences now, you're just replacing inside marketing people within a department to this, hey, go to FlyMeOut, set up your own brand trip. That's incredible. When you launched this, did you have that vision or did this organically happen?
Organic.
Dude, that's going to be the future for you, right? Like, that's incredible.
I think so. I think the brand trips are going to be a giant part of what we do starting Q1 of 2025. And we're working up to that initiative right now. We're testing with a few brand partners, figuring out what do you guys want? How do we make this experience better for you? So when we launch, we're doing it right.
So like Fire Island, if they came back to try to do a brand experience, would you let them on the platform? Too soon.
They're actually doing another one.
I heard about this. Is this the same guy?
Same guy.
Out of jail? Right?
Entrepreneur is a good entrepreneur.
Oh, dude. What was his name? McFarlane? What was his name?
Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane, Which I always confuse with the
other Seth MacFarlane.
I saw him on another podcast. Dude, that's incredible. So I want to ask about a few more things, right? Any horror stories right now or advice for people? You said earlier, like, hey, make sure you vet. It's like any other app. If I go on an Airbnb, right? Like, there's only so much, but is there any advice for people that are from the hosting side and then from the being accepted side?
So this summer we had a trip to Saint-Tropez. And the trip to Saint-Tropez was a fun trip. It was a party trip. You're going to Saint-Tropez. You're not doing yoga there. You're not sleeping at all. And 2 of the members who applied and went on this trip, they weren't into partying. They didn't drink. So there was actually an issue there where it was like, hey, like, we're on this trip and we don't really party or drink. And the host is like, I have these people on this trip and they're a terrible fit for the trip.
Sucks,
What the hell, man? And that's something that we're really working to solve. And it's the communication. We integrated vibes after that experience. So we got that feedback. We replicated it and we pushed that out. So now there's vibes and it's clear. It's like, hey, this is a rager trip. Do not apply if you're not into raging.
Vibes, basically a classification that you kind of rated after.
Trip vibes, where it's rated before the trip. So we talked to the host and we basically asked him, all right, so what's the vibe of the trip? What is your speed here? Are you looking to party for 5 days straight and not sleep? Or are you looking to go sit on a beach and not move? Because depending on what you're doing, you're going to get those style of applications. And that seemed to help the problem for sure. And we're not getting comfortable there. We're working with AI to integrate vibe matches and make sure we're promoting the right profiles based on the questions you answer when you onboard onto the platform. So there's a lot to do.
There's a lot. And then do like Susie and Mike, if they were on the trips, do they get a rating after? Like, I could go back and see, hey, Mike has been rated. Like, can you see stuff like that?
There's reviews, just like you would review a restaurant on Yelp. After you've been to the restaurant, you could review a host, you could review an attendee. Those reviews are something we're always kind of tinkering with and trying to figure out a way to make people feel comfortable and leave reviews and encourage them to leave reviews. We're finding that people love leaving great reviews. They don't want to leave bad reviews.
Right.
So how do we encourage that? And you're problem solving.
Your problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the exclusive is a big success factor for the app, that it's exclusive? Or do you foresee this one day being the Airbnb version of experiences, and you just open it up to everyone and then let nature take its course? Because like you said before, someone's accepted in there, but if they're not matching, that's up to you. Maybe the trip's not good. Maybe the vibes aren't right. Is that something, or?
I think the exclusivity is going to forever be something that's core to who we are and what we're building, right? Like Hermes doesn't build for everyone.
Right.
Lamborghini doesn't build for everyone. And they're still incredible companies. There's a giant market out there of top 10% earners who love to solo travel, who want to meet people.
Absolutely.
That's our market. I don't need to build something for everyone, because if you're trying to satisfy everyone, you're satisfying no one.
Yep. That's great. So exclusivity works.
Yeah.
A couple more things here. So funding and team, right? Like these are a couple things I want to talk, and then advice. But like from a funding standpoint, you knew to build the app, it took this much to run the sales, the marketing, the day-to-day.
Yep.
You went from like a very good compensation salary in your attorney days to nothing overnight. And then you got to build that up. Like, just talk to me. How is it managing finances in this and dealing with that? And then I'm sure you're bootstrapping and raising with certain investors. It's a whole new world.
A whole new world.
Notice the deep sigh before even getting into this, right? Like,
you're scratching and clawing for everything. You want to make sure that if you're not VC funded, which we're not, we're cockroaches. Like I come from a restructuring background, so I've seen money spent. I've seen it spent poorly. I've seen funds mismanaged. Like that is not the cloth that I'm cut from. So to get me to spend $1 is pulling teeth.
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure there's ROI behind every single dollar we spend. And it doesn't always work that way. Like it's not all quantifiable. So there has to be a balance there where sometimes you're just swinging and you have to make a bet, and that bet is not backed by anything. And you just have to realize like, hey, my intuition may be right here. Let's do this. Let's undertake this initiative and we'll see how it goes. And that's all it is testing. As far as funding goes, we're currently fundraising in our seed round. We raised a pre-seed round. It was pretty successful. And then early on, our first 5 investors were early adopters of the platform. Our ideal members, our ideal users.
Perfect.
They believed in the platform. They cut us a check. And, it's just, it worked. It worked for us, and going forward, we don't have to raise capital. That's the position I put us in, because you don't want to burn just to burn and grow at all costs.
Like Silicon Valley, again, I'm not from that world, but you always heard it was a celebration. We raised X million. We mean you just took on more debt. Like, do you need that money? Is that the success factor on just raising capital?
Yeah.
It always blew my mind. I know it's a different world.
Yeah.
But if you're not raising with expectations, and the raising of capital is the end goal, it doesn't make sense to me.
What people, and maybe they do understand this, but how I see it is venture capital comes with a venture expectation for growth. You now have a boss who's going to angle for a board seat, who's going to make sure that you're growing at all costs and you're hitting milestones. And if you're not hitting those milestones and you're not performing, they're going to pull their funding, because that funding is not all coming to you at one shot.
Right.
It's tied to milestones. And now you just ramped up this entire team. You brought on a sales team. You got a marketing team. You got this, you got that. And then what? You get your funding pulled. Now you got to fire the team. You're going to lose a ton of momentum. Yep. You're going to have to go back to the core, really. And it's an issue. And you're setting yourself up for failure in some instances because you're over-raising. And now you're pegged to a valuation that's unrealistic, that you're not going to be able to hit. If you don't hit that valuation, the next round's not going to be a good round. The next round's going to be a down round of fundraising, and no one's going to touch you because you've now haven't shown that you're trending upwards. So sometimes take less money at a lower valuation, knock it out of the park, and, set yourself up for success. Like, who cares? You raised 40 million. What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do? Exactly.
What are you going to do with it? Be realistic.
Yep.
And we think big. Founders think huge. Founders want to, knock it out of the park. And sometimes it's just about being methodical in all the decisions you make and making sure you're thinking about the consequences.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. And you said making ideas, making decisions, making them quickly. So who do you bounce ideas off of? Like this is your baby. You have investors, sure, that you can always tap into and get some ideas.
Yeah.
But in real time, when you're pressed against the wall, what's your idea, decision-making process like for you?
Number one is my girlfriend.
Okay.
She's the best, has been there from day one, and she's the one I go to with all my ideas, all my problems, all the issues. She calms me down. Amazing. Really brings me back to earth and like allows me to see it for what it actually is. Like, why are you so upset? Like, look where you've gotten in a year. Like, you've barely raised. Like, you've done amazing. Like, she's really an amazing sounding board for me. That being said, last night I actually pitched her an idea, a creative idea. And I got mad because she shot it down, and I retaliated and said, "You're not a creative person, so it doesn't matter. You don't get my creative pitches." And that could be true. That could be true. Like, there are certain brains that process things and that see the grander vision. So it's hard. Like, where I get my ideas from is I listen to this podcast called Founders.
Yes.
It's an incredible podcast. David Senra.
Dissects everything. Yeah, absolutely.
I have conversations with the eminent dead all day long. Like, I'm listening to Rockefeller. I'm listening to David Eck. Like, all these people that have just been through the process. Absolutely. And I don't speak to them, but they speak to me. And I'm having that conversation back and forth in my head. And that motivates me to go out and build and do things differently. So that's really who I have those conversations with. And more recently, I brought on an advisor who's, super smart, has built his own company. Our investors, I go to and talk to them all the time. Manny, for example, I speak to him once or twice a week, and we just bounce ideas off of each other. Yeah,
like Manny, Kess, talk about him for a second. Like, this is totally Manny. For anyone who doesn't know Manny Kess, like, obviously he was on the podcast, great guy, but this speaks his language. The guy's ultimate traveler around the world, experiences. Like, it makes sense to have someone like him supporting this, right?
Someone who's unbelievably connected. Yeah. It's someone who knows everyone and anyone you could imagine. And this is his playpen. Like, he understands the landscape. He's in Vegas. He owns Vegas, his concierge nightlife service. So like, he's crushing it. And people like that are who you have to bounce these ideas off of, and understand, like, not everyone's going to see it your way. Nope. There's a certain vision in your head, and it's hard to paint it for other people, but you see it crystal clear. And I think that's a skill. Getting people to really understand, like, this is the vision, and they'll see it one day, but right now you don't see it. So just be patient with it.
And the ones that matter.
Yeah. The ones
that need to see the vision, right? Yeah. Like, the haters, the noise will always poke holes at it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's just, how do you tune that out? Like, that's the challenge.
Easily,
right?
Yeah.
So from a team standpoint, positive, negative, like, how has it been managing employees? And like, this is a software company, right? There's a marketing aspect. There's, the human aspect, people actually filtering applications, creating experiences. Like, it's a big operation to make this all happen.
Yeah.
Talk to me on the good, the bad, the ugly, managing this.
Team building is one of the hardest things you could do. Managing people is something you can never learn in a law school. You can never learn in a boardroom. Like, you have to be in it. You have to have strong emotional intelligence. You have to understand and, connect with them on a deeper level, because everyone has their wants. They have their needs. They want to be recognized. They want to be patted on the back. And you have to be delicate with certain people, and you also have to know when to apply pressure.
Yeah.
It starts at the top. You have to set the expectation for everyone on the team. Like, and how I set the expectation is pretty crystal clear. Like, I didn't quit a $250,000 a year job to play, tic-tac-toe and Mickey Mouse Club over here. Like, I'm trying to build this to a point where we're all going to be good, because employees earn stock and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And you got to give them some skin in the game. So set the standard at the top and give clear guidance. Somewhere I failed in the past, where my guidance isn't necessarily crystal clear, which brings me back to the conversation we just had. It's hard to paint that picture for other people, and then build that roadmap and try to figure out, how are we going to get to the end point? And a lot of it is milestones and having those conversations, having really hard conversations. Like, you got to step up your performance, because we're a lean team. And now we're not necessarily that lean. We got 14 people. We got our tech team, we have our product team, we have our marketing team, we have our member development team. There's some overlap there. Customer service is involved. It's a big part of it. Funding, legal, all those issues, just you're constantly putting out fires.
Right. It's an operation. This isn't, like you said, it's not a Mickey Mouse operation.
Yeah.
So those are the challenges. And are you like the type of manager that you are? Do you hit it head on?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're also dealing with different cultures.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just Americans. It's people from around the world.
Yeah.
What's your management style? Like, do you go back to that, courtroom type attitude and hey, Fortune 500, like I'm going to hit it head on?
I try to be delicate about it, but there's certain issues you have no choice.
Yeah.
You have to be strategic. Let's wait and see. Let's not push buttons right now. Where are we at? Is this really a fire we have to deal with right now, or is it going to start a bigger issue for me? And I'm not going to have an answer for it. So you have to play the role of strategist. Think about it. How am I going to approach the situation? Is it something I'm doing where I could actually tell you what to do a little bit better? I could, try to get the most out of you, or am I just going to come and start blaming you for not doing your work?
Right.
You got to be patient. Obviously, there's been instances where I'm as patient as I could possibly be, and this just isn't working out. We're not the right fit. This isn't the right place for you. Sorry.
Yep.
Find another place to work. This isn't the place
Absolutely.
for you. And then there's other times where it's like, no, I could be better about my job. I could build a roadmap for this team because the team's lost. They don't have direction. And I got to give you direction. Like, you're not going to come up with it, right? It's not your job to. Something I want more out of the team is more autonomy. I want people in my company to not necessarily be so dependent upon me. Think for yourself, right? Like,
it's tough.
If this isn't the last place you work, I want you to go on to your next employer, the next job, and them turn and say, wow, you're an amazing employee. I want you to be poached because that means I did a great job of training you, or I made the right hire.
Yeah. And you excelled here. You flourished here. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I want. I want people that are killers, like people that are just thinking critically for themselves, always pushing the outer limits of like, what can I do here? How can I improve the company, the bottom line, and just take ownership of what you're building, because that's a reflection of you and it's a reflection of me.
Yeah. And it's tough, right? Like, I see it in my company. It's like that ownership aspect. Yeah. I've struggled early on when we launched this company. It's like, man, this employee in this country, it's a 9 to 5 and they clock in, they clock out. Like, I wish they would treat it like it's their own. And I remember there was a successful businessman who's like, but George, it's not theirs. So you have to change your expectations. Obviously, they need to perform. Yeah. But if they're doing a 9 to 5 and you're paying them for a 9 to 5, then make sure they know it's a 9 to 5. Obviously, there's profit sharing, and if they're not going above and beyond and all this stuff. So that one day just switched it, because growing up in the restaurant industry, I remember my mom would be like, this girl, she's not smart. She can't even give the right change back from the cash register. Yeah. And she would treat them just like an employee. And then they would complain like, they call in sick. It's not like it's their business. What do you expect? Yeah. You're treating them like it's not their business either.
Exactly.
So just like village mentality and applying it here, it's constantly just talking to the right people, I find, for me. And, different industry, but I like what Zach's doing there. Like, let me try to shift it. If we're not learning every day, then what are we doing?
Exactly. This is a place to learn. But if you are doing that 9 to 5, do it right.
Do it right. Yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes less is more. Like, fewer hours in the day, you could be more efficient. I don't need you there till midnight just to say you're there till midnight. It means you're not doing your job right.
No one's working 40-hour work weeks if they're a 9 to 5 salaried person.
Totally.
That's not realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you are going to work, 5 hours a day, give me great work.
Give me great work. Like, just go to town. Absolutely. Yeah. You have a wealth of knowledge. Before I ask you just about advice, okay, I want advice for the listeners, business podcast, but we have a broad range of listeners. You came, your family, your father's successful lawyer, your uncle's successful lawyer in Queens, New York, right? Servicing the tri-state. How was that, telling your dad that, hey, Dad, I'm leaving this, which is what our family does, and I'm going to start that? I can't imagine as an immigrant it was truly supportive. I'm making that assumption, but how was that?
We Greeks, I'll speak about Greeks, have this gene of entrepreneurship, right? We took a boat, our grandparents took a boat to cross the Atlantic with their kids, didn't speak the language, came to New York, set up, either built a business, worked really, really hard to put food on the dinner table, and then wanted the most for their children. So it starts with my grandfather, who really was a taxi cab driver painted bridges, didn't speak the language. He just passed away this summer. But what always stuck with me is like, he would tell me, imagine me coming to New York with a wife who was pregnant and then a newborn son. Imagine me who didn't know the language. All I knew when I was a taxi cab driver in New York in the 60s, which was rough, in the 70s, was yes, no, yes, no. He got robbed, whatever the case was, but he always pushed my dad and my uncle to go be attorneys. That was him. He wanted them to go be lawyers. They did. The Greek community, was their niche, and they took it over, and they did an amazing job doing so. And then they still wanted more. Like, they bought properties, opened up a gym. They had no experience opening up a gym. So growing up, I saw that. My dad building a practice, always on the phone. Saturdays, Sundays, I'd be in flag football, but my dad was on the phone pacing back and forth. My uncle, basketball practices, same thing.
Always hustling, always moving.
Always hustling. And I saw that. And that's not lost on you as a child. Like, that's who you are. So then at like 14 years old, I wanted a laptop, and my dad was like, go work for it. So I went around the neighborhood with a black garbage bag, throwing soda cans in the garbage bag, 5 cents each, to go make the money to go buy a laptop. Obviously, I could never get near the $1,000 for a MacBook at the time, but my dad saw that and he went and bought me a laptop.
Absolutely.
Because of the work ethic. And then the same thing happened where I wanted a car. My dad was like, okay.
It's a lot of cans.
go work for it. So 16, 17 years old, I was a waiter. I started off as a busboy, a food runner, dessert boy, barback, bartender, waiter. And I was making money. All my friends were away in college. I was a senior in high school, and then I was in college at Queens College. All my friends were partying on the weekends. I was picking up plates, but I was making $600 a night in Long Island, which, was an upscale clientele doing family style. I learned how to speak. I learned how to multitask. I was serving people out, 20 people at a time. I learned what a shitty human being was. People who don't appreciate you, who tip terribly. And that really builds character. And my dad knew that. My dad saw me. He would come into the restaurant, watch me work. So we were always like really close, and he knew like who I was character wise. I wasn't the sharpest student, right? I wasn't the top student in my class in college. And then, I studied for the LSAT, and that's where things clicked for me. Like, oh, this is my future. I gotta, no more games. Like, it's time to 100% give my all to the practice of law when I got into law school. And we kind of touched on that. But my dad knew who his son was. That being said, every parent wants the best for their kid.
Sure.
They want their kid to, just make the most out of life. They want us to be super successful. I was a TA at Duke. I was an adjunct professor at Duke Law. Like, I taught Intro to Bankruptcy 101 to 1L law students. Like, my parents were proud of that. They love telling people that. Like, I was a corporate attorney. They were proud of that. And then all of a sudden it comes full stop, and it's like, well, this isn't what I'm doing. I planted that seed though for years. They knew. I would tell them, it's not a matter of like if, it's when. Like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna quit the practice of law.
It wasn't a shock for them.
There's a sunset period here. It was a shock that I actually did it. That was the shock. And, my dad took some talking to. My mom took some talking to.
Sure.
They don't understand like the tech world right now. Maybe they took leaps, but no offense. It was easier to do it back then.
Well, yeah.
Sort of.
I'm building a gym. Physically, I drive here. I see what I bought.
Yeah.
Right? This is a concept for them, right?
Yeah. And times are different. It wasn't easier to do it back then because resources, you didn't have AI. Right? You didn't have computers that you could build like this. You had to go create a computer in your garage.
Yep.
Times were different. And times right now was just the age of, I want to build something for myself. I don't want to do a 9-to-5. And my dad kind of had, he knew it was coming. So when I told him I'm quitting, he was like, okay, go for it. And, the first 6 months where growth wasn't what it needed to be.
Sure.
Was like, what are we doing here? How much money are you making? Dad, we're not charging subscriptions. We're not making any money. What do you mean? We're not. That's not how this works. Trust me. I have an idea. I know how this is going to go about. I need you to trust me. The same guy who killed the LSAT, went to law school, won best closing argument, clerk for a judge, went corporate. Like, that's the same guy in this driver's seat. Trust me. And he's super supportive now and backs me 100%. He's proud of me, and hopefully I could keep making my family proud.
Dude, that's amazing to hear, man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's so awesome to hear. So you have a wealth of knowledge. Like let's talk last segment here on advice, right?
Yeah.
So there's advice, career, and try to frame some of this on, you're going to start a family one day, right? You're going to have a young son or daughter. Like, what advice are you going to give them on just pursuing your goals, right? Even career. Are you going to push them down a path to become an attorney? Are you going to push them? Like, how are you going to parent?
Simple. The equation is this. What do you want in life, and what are you willing to give up for it? That's the trade-off. Period. It's no more simpler than that. Tell me what you want. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Do you want to go to the gym? What are you giving up to go to the gym? Do you want to go party on Saturday night? What is the sacrifice to go party on Saturday night? It's all an equation.
Right.
And what you're going to put in is exactly what you're going to get out. And if you have that plan, if you want to go be a lawyer, well, what are you giving up for that? If you want to go be a founder, what are you giving up for that? And what's the plan? It's pretty simple. It's all sacrifice. You want to watch Netflix? The opportunity cost for Netflix isn't $29.99 a month. It's $29.99 a month plus whatever you're not doing over the course of those 40 hours a month that you're watching and binging that TV show.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And, what advice would you give to someone who's, like you said, you're weighing it, you have a methodical approach, you're weighing all this stuff. For me, I feel like people get blinded by just these people online, like, oh man, fuck it, quit your job, quit school, go jump into it.
Yeah.
And people get fueled by this and they go do it when probably 98% of everything fails because they're going in with this false, not everyone's meant to go out there and start their own thing.
Nope.
Right. And then, if you don't know what opportunity cost is, then you should really take a deep dive on what's that, right? You're not missing out on $250,000 a year. You're missing plus this, plus bonuses, plus investments.
Yep.
So when you just look at that, if someone has an idea, what advice would you give them? Just steps to go and start something. Doesn't matter what it is, like to even evaluate it.
Yeah. Don't quit your day job, for sure. And before you really jump into building the idea, before you look into the logos, before you even buy the domain name, find 50 people that are going to use this. Pull a Google Forms together, send it to 50 people and ask them questions. Deduct through reasoning whether or not whatever you're trying to build is what they want. Does it solve a problem? Does this exist in the market? Is what you're building 10% better than what exists?
Right.
If there's a competitor out there, and really go find your users first and build based on what your users' feedback is. Don't build what you think they want. Build what they actually want. And more importantly, don't ask them specifically about features, about what they want. Henry Ford has an amazing quote. It says, if I would have asked my user what he wanted, he would have said a faster horse.
Exactly.
They're the consumer for a reason, right? You're the founder, you're the creator, you have the big ideas. Pull it out of them and then go build.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
That's great advice, man.
Yeah.
FlyMeOut is going to be a household name, right? In the years to come.
Yeah.
For people that are interested to even go with flymeout.io.
Yep.
Okay. So .io. And then to go there, there's a application section if someone's interested in going in there. Mm-hmm. Anything else promotion wise?
Download it in the App Store, FlyMeOut, submit an application, and that's it.
Amazing, man. Yeah. I appreciate you making the time. All right. All the best.
You're the man.
You're the man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I love this. This
was awesome. And we got the hats too. So
yep.
This is great, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. Please hit the subscribe and like buttons and follow me on all the main podcast streaming channels. Also, please share your comments when you can. I appreciate your help in expanding this network to a worldwide audience. Until next time, stay invigorated.